Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Content is Still King or Queen, Content as a Tool to Successfully Position Yourself as a Board Director. Excited to talk about this topic today and have Anouk Pappers with us today to go through this. Let's go through a few quick reminders first before we get started. A few points to mention. So our purpose today is to share knowledge on the roadmap for creating content that will position you for that first or your next board appointment. Please write your questions in the Q&A section. Our goal is always to answer all questions at the close of the presentation. Otherwise, we'll follow up with you via email afterwards. For the materials, yes, the entire webinar is being recorded. You'll receive a link in just a day or so with a link to that recording. And you'll also have the ability to separately download the presentation deck. Now, for those attending today with their IBDC.D designation, you will receive 1 CPE credit by attending. Just be sure to follow the proper CPE credit submission guidelines. Again, welcome to everybody today. Anouk, let me do your introduction. I'm so happy to have you with us today. You have a few lessons with us in the IBDC program, and I will tell you that this topic that you speak of, or the multiple topics you speak of, always garner a pretty large crowd for us. And we'll talk a little more about this area as it relates to executives and board directors, both aspiring and experienced, why it's so important. So a quick introduction of Anouk. She is the CEO of Signet, supporting diverse leaders to elevate their online presence. She's the founder of Cool Brands People, also supporting women leaders in achieving their next goals. This is quite interesting. What an achievement here, Anouk. You've been storytelling for brands since 2002, and you've interviewed over 900 CEOs, CMOs, and business owners, and published 15 books. I found it hard to get through one book, published one. I don't know how you've done 15, but good for you. And we're also happy and proud to have you as not just IBDC certified, you've been through the course and the program, but you're also one of our education partners. So happy to have you in that position with us as well. Welcome, Anouk, and really excited to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Let me start sharing my...
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so well, let's dive in because we have a limited amount of time, of course. And I'd like to start by talking a little bit about some recent studies that we've seen where we see that the difference between winning and losing an opportunity comes down to critical, subtle, but really critical factors. How relevant and current do you look versus your competition? Are you perceived as a thought leader? And does an online search match or even enhance your credentials? Because interestingly, the online search has become both the initial and final evaluation point in the search, as more people in the process review a board candidate's qualifications. So you may ask yourself, how do I stand out from the crowd or from the LinkedIn crowd? The issue is not the crowd. The issue is the final decision makers who may or may not have met you. So I'll share with you how you can optimize your online and your LinkedIn search to be your wingwoman or wingman by showing you how to create content that enhances your image and positions you as a solid board candidate. So as some of you may know, I strongly believe that we can achieve our next professional goals by doing 3 things: defining or redefining our personal brand. Who am I? What do I stand for? What do I bring to the table? Once you have that defined, articulate your brand into relevant content. Because you can say, like me, I'm a brand anthropologist, but if you do not create any content to prove it, it's just a word, it doesn't mean anything. And thirdly, we have to understand that we need to use Google as our wingwoman or wingman to achieve those next goals. Because if everything is on our laptop, for example, nobody will know. So today I'd like to zoom in on one aspect of that process, that where we can talk about how we can make that more simple, effective, and really work toward being successful there. Because the challenge is how we stay current and relevant in this new age of information overload. I mean, we all know we were in an information overload era years ago, or we're kind of in a new one where everybody is potentially a publisher, which means all the content that gets out there, it's open for everybody. And of course, AI is enabling that process big time. So let me start by easing your mind, by sharing a concern that a lot of people I talk to share with me. How do I stand out between the millions of users on LinkedIn? My answer, based on your next goal, of course, if your goal is to be a rock star or an influencer, it's another story. But if you're looking for a board seat, it's different. You don't need to stand out. You don't need to be on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook, even LinkedIn all day, every day. You need to make sure that you build a consistent and a qualitative presence. Make sure you're there in the right way at the right moment when the right people are looking for you. Your online presence is a support tool and you should use it as such. In today's age, it's very easy to get lost in the numbers game. So we have the allure of likes and shares and comments, and we often think that measuring success is, or that success is how many people have actually glanced at our content rather than the actual impact. So I would like to redefine that success. Would you rather have 1,000 people scroll past your content, giving it a fleeting glance, or the right people to see it? The real metric of success is not how many eyeballs you've accumulated, but on whose radar you are. And how do you get on someone's radar? One of the things is by networking. How do you do that? How do you make sure that people, the right people, know that you're looking for that board seat? One way is with referrals, which is a great place to start working on achieving that next goal. You talk to somebody who knows someone, and they will introduce you. Referrals is a great way of building your network, but also building your thought leadership, the awareness of it. But also you need to get out there. You need to network. You need to be in between people. You need to be meeting your target audience. You cannot find a board seat by just sitting behind your computer. You need to meet the right people. You need to go to board conferences, maybe industry-specific events, figure out where your target audience is and go and meet them. And when you do meet them, make sure you talk about who you are. That's how you introduce yourself, not with what you do. This is a big difference in making that first in-person impression, which also works, of course, virtually, but make sure you talk about who you are. Don't tell them this and this and this and this is my job, or this and this and this is what I've done. No, people connect with people, not with a job title or not with a product or a service, but with people. It's a very important one. And when that someone who knows someone who knows someone gets your name, what do? They Google you, because we are still who Google says we are. So in every presentation that I do, I ask 3 questions, and I would like you for yourself to answer these questions. The first one, do you Google yourself on a regular basis? Let's say every 3 months, you type in your name and you see what shows up. Question 1, simple yes or no. Second question, do you Google others? Before you meet someone, after you met someone, before you hire someone, before you want to go on the board, before you work with someone, whatever, do you Google others? Second question, simple yes or no. Third question, did you ever decide not to follow through with a relationship based on what you found or maybe didn't find online? Again, a simple yes or no. The statistics here don't lie. Again, I told you I do this for every presentation that I give. I have these questions, so I accumulated lots and lots of responses. The highest I ever got was that 1/3 of us Google ourselves on a regular basis, 33%. Who Googles others? 95%, almost everybody. So what this means is that, let's say I don't Google myself, but I know that you're Googling me. I don't know what I look like online, but I know that you're all looking at me. There's a gap there in perception, because my first impression, the first impression that you have of me, is my online presence. And if I don't know, that's one, and don't take care of that, there's a big gap, and it will lead to the third part, which is that over 50% of people, once or more, have decided not to follow through with a relationship based on what they found online. So the misrepresentation of you online can cost you opportunities. So the question is, are you actively looking, or are you actively working on your online presence? So first assignment going forward, please make sure to Google yourself every 3 months. Even if you don't do anything with the results, at least you're aware. That's step one. So when you work on your online presence, what do you do? How do you do that? You work on your LinkedIn. What do you do there? Make sure that you have a good profile, and then you hope that people will reach out to you. Good luck. You need to be active. You need to be active on LinkedIn, and I'm not talking about every day and all day, but you need to be active on LinkedIn if you want to find that first or that next board seat. Because again, at some point in the review process, people will look you up, people will Google you, and LinkedIn, of course, is a very important part of that. How am I being active? What do I need to do? Well, the best way of being active is by creating and publishing content that supports your subject matter expertise. This can be your take on a topic. It can be a short video snippet. It can be a snippet from a panel that you were on, a video of you speaking, an article on your subject matter expertise. There are so many ways, different, and I'll go in detail, but there's so many ways in which you can create content. This is what you need to get out there, because that's a starting point for a conversation. If I say, hey, I'm Anouk, I'm CEO of Signet, nobody cares. But if I start talking about my subject matter expertise, then the right people will be starting that conversation. Because remember, your online presence is your branding and marketing. You need to do the sales. So it's supporting you. It's not bringing home the deal. It's really about positioning you in the right way. That's how you need to think of your online presence. To give you an example, I worked really hard on creating a strong online reputation for myself. I'm all about online presence and personal branding, and I want to get speaking engagements. Not that speaking engagements brings me direct business, but it creates sales opportunities for me. So I need to make sure that people understand why to connect with me. I need to make sure that my online presence really reflects the thought leadership that I bring. Because if, of course, somebody talks about somebody and somebody tells them my name, they will Google me. They will see my thought leadership, and then they will or will not connect with me. But at least I make sure it's all there for people to find. And this is how it works in a board. So let's say you are already on a board and you're looking for a new board member, and there is a list of 5 potential board candidates. How do you decide who to speak to first? It's the person with the strongest online presence, because they're already on your list. So they're qualified. Their board documents are in order. They all have, let's say, the basic hygiene, the nitty-gritty, that's all there. So what makes them different? How do they stand out? That's by figuring out before you meet them, you check out their online presence. That's, let's say, the only thing you have to get to know them, maybe like them a little bit. So in those first steps, you need to be there. And if this first person really lives up to the expectations created with their online presence, the other 4 may not even get a phone call. So you have to make sure that you stand out between, let's say, your direct competition. Again, not between everybody on the internet, but just between the people that you're competing with at that moment. And that's, of course, and that's the same way when it's the other way. So one is you're looking for a new board member, but it works exactly the same when you're looking for that board seat. It's the same. You're going to be one of those 5 people that they will, or 10 people that they will be looking at and talking to. So you need to make sure you stand out in the right way. Because, and this is maybe the most important slide of this whole webinar, the difference between you getting the seat or the other person may easily be your online presence. I'm going to pause for a second just to let this sink in. The difference between you getting the seat or the other person may be your online presence. So let's say that we all agree on this and we say, okay, we know this, we realize this. What do we do? Where do we start? Well, it's a good place to start by answering some questions. And we start with what's your next goal? And of course, we're all here. Everybody's looking for a board seat so that we have that as a common goal. Think about who's your target audience. Who are you trying to reach? Who needs to know that you are looking for that board seat? Who would benefit most from your content and from your knowledge? So we need to understand that our audience ensures that your message finds its mark. These are the people who can help you achieve that next professional milestone, finding that board seat. So by focusing on them, your message will be niche and clear enough to reach that goal. What do you bring to the table? What are your unique benefit points? What do you bring that others don't? And remember that we have our hard skills, which are very important. We have our expertise and our experience, but it's also very much, what do you bring as a person? What do you bring that others don't? What's the reason why we pick you on our board and not, let's say, another person with the exact same or very similar credentials? Where do you stand out? Your personal brand or professional brand, if you prefer, is an essential part of this process. You need to make sure that you have your personal brand defined. Again, what is it that you bring to the table? How do you differentiate yourself? Because this will make you stand out between the others. It will help position you in a very clear way, and it will give others, very important, the right ammunition to talk about you. Because remember, we were talking about networking, knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone. We need to make sure that that third someone understands, very simply put, what it is that you bring to the table. And we cannot say, you should meet Mark because he's such a nice guy. We need to have something more. You should meet Mark because this is what he brings to the table.
I am a nice guy, Anouk, by the way.
Yes, but everybody knows that already. So we need to get to that next level. So let me share some key differentiators that we work with some of our clients to give you an idea of what that may look like. So one of our clients, she has an experience across industries and disciplines, and she's an advocate for equity through education. Those are the two things that she wants people to know about her. Another client, he's a business leader with financial acumen and an authentic relationship builder. And the third one is a thought leader in digital and technology with a global perspective and cultural understanding. So what we're hearing here are these three people who define themselves partly by their expertise experience and partly by something more, let's say, personal, passion-driven or purpose-driven, if you like. Because the business leader with financial acumen, he's an authentic relationship builder, which says something about his character, about the person that he is. So think about when you are defining yourself to use a combination, let's say, of the expertise, experience, but also the personal aspect. On the positioning statement level, which is actually the highest level where we should elevate you and really talk about who you are independent of what you do, there's also ways of how you can position yourself. So the people we were talking about before with their key differentiators, their positioning statements are, I'm a strategic technologist, I'm an idea creator and positive change maker, and I'm an AI governance expert. So depending on, let's say, how personal you want to go, you can make your positioning statement fit as who you are. So the AI governance expert, that's somebody who's, let's say, maybe less comfortable in sharing, let's say, the real personal side, whereas the idea creator and positive change maker is somebody who really goes out and be that person. All three of these people are on boards or looking for boards. So it's how they position themselves to be different from, hey, I'm a board director, but I also bring these capabilities and this personality to the table. Subject matter expertise, that's really about, okay, what are you the expert in, etc. And how do you define this? How do you define your communication topics? Look at this Venn diagram and try to find the overlap. So if you think about what your passion is, if you think about what your expertise is, and what your target audience is interested in. Find the overlap, and that's where you can find some of your communication topics. Also, when we talk about communication topics, don't think you need to come up with a new topic every month or whenever you create a new article. Define your topics, 2, maybe 3 of them, and stick to them. Because people want to know what you're the go-to person for, what you're the expert in. And you cannot be an expert in something else on a monthly basis. My topics, only 2, personal branding, online presence. I stick to those. And every time I find a new angle or a new perspective to talk about those topics. You can also create content or talk about more generic topics, like how do I see my industry evolve in the coming 5 or 10 years? What are some trends that I'm seeing in my industry that my peers should be aware of? What are some opportunities you've seized in the past? Or what is the biggest problem or the biggest issue that your industry needs to solve? So you can also talk, let's say, on that level, but you can also go more specific, as for example, this corporate board director, his passion is cybersecurity. His expertise is corporate governance and strategy. And the interest of his target audience is to mitigate cyber risks. So that's, go back to the Venn diagram, those are the 3 bullets. The overlap he found is in cybersecurity governance and risk management. So the communication subject for this director could be focused on guiding organizations in developing robust cybersecurity strategies and governance practices to protect their data and operations. It's a mouthful, but it's really figuring out, okay, this could be his topics, and that's what he could be creating content about. Another corporate board director is very passionate about philanthropy. So the passion is giving back. The expertise is corporate leadership and governance. And the audience is interested in social responsibility and community engagement. So here the overlap is CSR and philanthropic initiatives. So this director could be known for advising corporations on how to incorporate philanthropy and CSR into their business strategies, helping them make a positive impact on society while achieving their business goals at the same time. So again, starting with the Venn diagram, finding the different aspects, expertise, passion, and what your audience is interested in, finding the overlap, and from there, develop or define your communication topics. Once we defined our topic, we go to the next step, which is the actual creation of the content. Now, there are many different ways in which we can create content, and I'd like to walk us through these 4. The first one is what we call a lead-in. And a lead-in is, let's say, the simplest way to start. You read an article that you really like, whether it's on Harvard Business Review, MIT, Forbes, Fortune, say, hey, this really resonates with my vision on the topic. You use that article, you write a short 150, 200 word lead-in that really reflects your vision on the topic. So instead of having to create something from scratch, you use something that exists, but you add your vision to it. What happens, you'll become the curator for your audience. So I don't have the time to read the whole Harvard Business Review article, but because you're a subject matter expert and you've been writing about this topic, I trust you, let's say, when I read that lead-in. So it's just your lead-in, a snippet from the original article, and I spend a few minutes understanding instead of having to read the whole article. You can also write an article, thinking about, again, using maybe some existing content or a speech that you did, and write an article that reflects your vision on a topic. 500 words is a great length for an article because Google doesn't like it if it's shorter, and a lot of people don't start reading it when it's longer. So 500 word article really does a good job. And remember, we want to create conversation starters. So we're not in here to be complete and give everything that we have, but we want to get the interest of people saying, hey, wait a minute, you write about this topic, really interesting, tell me more, or what do you think of this? So see this as conversation starters. Co-creation of content, very interesting as well. So if Mark and I want to create an article together and we talk about a topic where we have a common ground, it's great. We have our article, and then of course what happens, we share it both in our networks. So we're sharing exposure into our networks. which is great, can be great for the both of us. So think about co-creating content with peers, colleagues, advisors, other experts in the same area or in a slightly different or adjacent area. Co-creating of content, really interesting to read, to create, but also helping you expand your reach. And of course, you can be interviewed. We interview a lot of people. We help them create their stories. There's other trusted sources that can interview you. And the interview gives you the opportunity to tell your story in a, let's say, from a third-party perspective. So we have a lot of people say, oh, I'm really not comfortable talking about myself. So how can we change this? Well, that's by interviewing you. Then the publishing part really is about, okay, we have the content, now we need to get it out there. LinkedIn, of course, yes, but also try to look at sources or platforms that are not LinkedIn. Medium, WordPress, Script, YouTube, all these open source platforms give you the opportunity to create or to publish the content. You can use online magazines like the ones that we've created to share your content, and you're going to be in the context of other leaders and board members. So this helps your online presence and reputation as well. What we create for our clients is a Signet personal branding page. Here, everything from your positioning until up to your content is being shared here. It's a you at a glance. It really gives people a good idea of everything that you bring to the table. So there are many ways in which we can publish content. How do you increase your network? How do you stay current and relevant? There are 5, I think, strategies that I would like to share briefly. Publish consistently. If you have 5 pieces of content, please don't put them all out in 1 week, but make a consistent plan and say, okay, I think it's doable for me to publish something on a monthly basis or even every 2 months, but don't do it all at once. Make a plan and create that strategy. Better to be consistent than again doing everything at once. When we're creating content, we need to make sure we add value. Think back about the overlap between your passion, your expertise, and what your audience is interested in. Make sure you add value. Create articles that have a personal touch as well. Don't just create a dry article about a topic, but add something of you. Start a dialogue. When you connect with people, start asking them questions. It's not just about you pushing out content, it's about creating those conversations, because based on those conversations, people will be able to say, hey, wait a minute, if this is what you're all about, I can support you, I can introduce you left and right. Because remember, networking is the core. That's why we're doing this. The moment that someone who knows someone, that's why we're creating the content and publishing it. We want to see and hear you. So whenever you create content and you're using a featured article, featured image, make sure it shows you and not something or somebody else. We see there's so much more engagement when we're showing you instead of something. Same when you're on Zoom, not in a webinar, but usually in Zoom, make sure that you're on camera, that you're actively participating. You never know who sees you and who will actually help you get to that next level. If you're invisible, it's very, very difficult. Join a LinkedIn engagement pod. This is something where a group of people, peers, they agree to like, comment, or share each other's content, again, expanding the reach. Let's say we set up here, everybody who's attending today, we set up a LinkedIn engagement pod, and whenever one of us publishes something, we agree to at least like, maybe comment or share. So we will be in each other's networks and creating opportunities for each other. Last part is you need to engage and interact. And again, even if you have 15 minutes a week to work on LinkedIn, these are some of the things that you should do or can do. Again, the more time you have, the better, but we all know that you're busy with the current job, boards, families, etc., etc. So make sure that the time that you spend it wisely and intentionally. Whenever you're posting on LinkedIn, name tag somebody in the comment and ask them for feedback. Do not just post something, but think about, hey, I really would like this person to see my content. So add them, tag them in a comment. Same story when somebody comments on your post. Same idea. React to the comment, name tag the person, and start or continue that conversation. You can be selective here. It may not sound very nice, but if there's a person who's, let's say, not really relevant for you getting to your next goal, you may not engage that much. Again, if you only have a limited amount of time, be very intentional about who you connect with and maybe who you don't. Find new people, find sitting CEOs, board members. Again, going back to thinking about your target audience. Look at your LinkedIn, who am I still missing? And start connecting with these people. And do not just bluntly reach out and connect, but look them up, see what they're all about, see what they're talking about, react on their post, and name tag them in that response again. And like that, start a conversation and then connect with the people. So it's really about creating meaningful connections, not as many as you can. LinkedIn groups, some people say LinkedIn groups are of the past. I don't know, I think they can work, but again, you need to be intentional. Find LinkedIn groups that either have as members your target audience, or they talk about your subject matter. Go in, find interesting people, start a conversation, react to their post, etc. It's the same drill, but in groups. And last but not least, see if you can connect with people that you've known before, whether it's alumni, previous colleagues, whoever it is. They may be on boards today, they may not, and they probably don't know that you're looking for a board seat. So reconnect with these people and engage with them with content. Hey, there's an article that I wrote about modern board dynamics, whatever the topic is, take a look and what do you think? And like this, people will start, oh, wait a minute, he's actually looking for a board seat, so I know somebody who knows someone. There we go again. Same drill all over. So this is what I wanted to share, and I'm almost there, and I want to start to end with the fact that staying ahead in a constantly evolving digital landscape requires adaptability and precision. So we need to focus on making meaningful connections, and let's make sure that we pivot from just being seen to making an impact. Because it's not about how many are looking, but actually who is truly seeing your content and your brand. So going forward, there are 3 scenarios. You're all set, you're doing all this and exactly, and then I would say, well, keep up the good work. Or you say, well, I could really use some support with my brand, with my online reputation, with content creation. Or you'd like to discuss. And what I would like to offer is to anyone who feels the need, connect with me, send me an email, and we can set up a 20-minute discussion to go over your specific questions, situation, and go from there. So, Mark, back to you.
Great, Anouk, thank you so much. Always useful information, and you're exactly on time too, I will point out. So quickly before we get, yeah. Quickly before we get to Q&A, if you can advance one page here, Anouk. Many of you today are joining us with your IBDC certification. For those that are not familiar with this, many of the topics that Anouk has covered, we touch on. Anouk has lessons also in the IBDC program. I welcome you to check this out, get yourself certified. In addition to having content and sharing of information, the certification component is also weighing heavily in decisions. I, for one, can tell you that I see this on a monthly basis right now when we have candidates, say the top 3 candidates. I definitely go on Google, Anouk, I search them out, I see if they're sharing information. In some cases, if they're equally in that space, then we start to move into the education and certification space as kind of the final push for them to be appointed. Okay, let's move to the Q&A section. A couple of great questions here already, so feel free again to enter into the Q&A area. Here's the first question for you, Anouk. As a busy, possibly overloaded executive, I appreciate the honesty. I already know I cannot commit to a heavy content publishing or expertise sharing calendar. So commenting and reposting of existing content is likely my only option. Will my lack of unique and signature content hurt me?
I think the short answer is yes. And long answer is probably yes too. it's just something that we're seeing that becomes so important to really own your voice, to have your voice. People really want to know what you stand for and what it is that you bring to the table. So maybe instead of saying, well, I don't have the time, see if you can work with somebody, can be us, can be somebody else, to help you create that content. Even if it's, let's say, only once every quarter. I mean, we work with people who publish something on a monthly basis, but we also have people who are publishing on every 2 months or even every 3 months, because like you, they're really, really busy. But starting to create that and also getting into the habit of thinking about, because it's not just that online presence and not just publishing online, it will also help you in, let's say, real life conversations that you have, because you're becoming more and more structured in your thinking about what it is that you bring to the table, and explaining, let's say, your subject matter expertise as well.
Right. Right. Okay, here's an interesting question. And I'm assuming this question is coming to us from China. You seem to put a lot of emphasis on LinkedIn, but in China, where I live, I guess you pronounce this Mai, is a heavily used professional platform. Do you recommend I also equally utilize LinkedIn?
That depends on where you're looking for a board seat. So if you're looking for a board seat outside of China, then I think you should definitely use LinkedIn. And if My is, let's say, the LinkedIn that's being used in China also by executive search professionals, then I would focus my attention there.
Mhm. I guess an add-on from my viewpoint on this is that it sounds like from what you're proposing is to actually leverage multiple platforms and mediums basically to get your voice and your name out there and your picture out there for that matter as well. So is it safe to say that not focusing on one single platform, but as I think your diagram showed, you're actually leveraging all these different areas when possible?
Yeah, for sure. Because what you want is, I mean, LinkedIn or My or Xing in Germany, I mean, these are really important networks, but that's just one part. And it's just, let's say, one hit of your 10 results on your Google search. So we always say, yes, LinkedIn is important for engaging, or My for engaging and interacting, but you need to take care of the online presence and say beyond that platform as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again, I know that in China it's different, and there's different platforms, but the thinking is the same.
Mhm. Great. Thank you. Okay, next question. It was mentioned to write notes to reconnect and revive relationships. For most, I think this is the easy part. However, keeping the revived relationship is the hard part. Any suggestions on how to do this successfully? I think that's a very broad question, but I too am very careful if I reach out to somebody that I haven't spoken to in a while, that I want to make sure it's not just the one-hit wonder approach to it and then you disappear again for years.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that's the good thing of LinkedIn. So the moment that you reconnect with somebody that you've known years ago, and it's via LinkedIn, and you have, let's say, that regular activity of publishing on LinkedIn, that's how, let's say, you stay updated and you stay connected. So the first reconnection moment is, hey, we haven't spoken to each other in 20 years. We were at the same university or the same, whatever it is. So reconnect, and then reconnect with content. And then once you are back in that conversation, and the moment you send out a new article or you publish a new article, then that person will start seeing you as well again. So
Mhm.
it's I think that's the easy part. It's much easier, let's say, than sending an email to every individual. It's when you keep up, let's say, that activity on LinkedIn, then in principle your whole network, they won't, but your whole network can see, let's say, what you're busy with.
Great, thank you. Here's an interesting question. If you would like to modify what Google shows on your online search, how do you do it? Your reputation, fixing your reputation, I guess that's about.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, if you see negative things or things that you really don't like, please don't click on it, because the moment you click on a result, Google thinks, oh, this is really interesting content, so they push it up. So stop clicking on stuff you don't like. Then the second thing is, there are agencies or companies who can help you commit digital suicide, making sure that everything goes away. I don't think that's a great solution. It's possible, but it's difficult. But what we say is, just by creating new content and using those other platforms, you will push down other content. So for example, And I'm not talking about using social media all day, every day. But if you have a Twitter account, an Instagram account, a Facebook account, maybe from years ago, they usually show up on the first page of Google. So if you have those accounts, you can easily update them, make sure that they are focused toward your board search. So because they will populate part of your first page. And then, of course, publishing on Medium, WordPress, YouTube, using those other open source platforms to publish your content, that will give you more hits on the first page and organically push down some of the things you don't like.
I see. And I'm glad you touched on both sides because there is the negative side, which is if you have information you don't want to be higher up on the list. But also, if you are rebranding yourself, in the case of what you're describing right now, we have many people in the program that are aspiring directors, and they want the more recent materials that are showcasing them as a viable board candidate to show up towards the top. So I appreciate you talking about that side as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's always about generating new hits or creating new content and showing that. And don't forget, when you publish articles outside of LinkedIn, make sure that you use interesting titles because they start showing up as well. And a lot of people just do title scanning. So I'm not going to go in depth, but I'm just going to look, hey, what is Mark all about? This and this and this. Oh, great. I get a really good first impression. And that helps me make my decision if I want to connect with you or not.
Mm-hmm. This next question says, this question may be for Mark. In the IBDC course, I learned how to properly package myself with the major plus 3 minors concept. Yes. When it comes to sharing of content, I plan on writing articles correlating to these areas. Is this a good strategy? So what I'll do, if you don't mind, Anouk, I can answer this and maybe mix in where you mentioned about the passion, the expertise, and the audience interest, as you talked about kind of finding that sweet spot in the Venn diagram. I don't think it's any different. In fact, it feeds directly into what we're talking about. I know for me, I typically focus on articles that relate back to my minors. For those of you that have not been through the program, the minors correlate to common board committee expertise areas. So for me, governance and strategy, I have a very broad realm of things I can write about that fit back into those areas, but I always try to link them back into board related aspects of those articles. But I think your example, Anouk, of that diagram showing passion, expertise, and the audience, the target audience, is a great way to look at that. And absolutely, yes, to answer this question, I try to always make it about what I want to be known for. Even back to that question of the search, I want that to be the main search things that come up that relate back to board directorship on those particular topic areas. Anything to add to that, Anouk?
No, I think the minors is a great way to start. And it's like you say, okay, so for example, it's if you would be on a cyber or an audit, let's say it would be audit, so then your expertise is finance. Make sure that there is always, let's say, a personal touch in there. So don't write, let's say, articles that are too dry or too theoretical, but use them to talk about, okay, how you would fit in an audit committee, or maybe experiences that you have that are really relevant for an audit committee. So I agree that those topics, the minors could be great indicators for to define your communication topics for sure.
Right. All right, we're moving into speed round now to keep in our time frame. So with 2 minutes left, two other final questions. Does LinkedIn value certain content strategies more than others in its algorithm? I have heard that liking doesn't count at all, but commenting with an influencer who then replies to you would be ranked higher.
Agreed. If we're talking about speed, yes.
Okay.
Liking
Okay.
is one, commenting is better, and sharing is good too. The only thing you have with when you share, if I share an article that you wrote, for example, then I will get the likes, the next likes and comments. They will be, let's say, on my account.
Gotcha. Okay. A question from my side on this, which I think you do. Many people from the course, when we're doing the one-on-one, they're all into the posting, they're bought into it and sharing information, but they're not able to write the articles, don't have the time, don't have the skill sets and those things. That's an offering that you have as well of the content creation, correct, Anouk?
That's correct. Yeah. So based on, let's say, understanding who you are, what your topics are, we can help you create content. And whether that's writing an article for you or interviewing you or creating those lead-ins that we talked about. Yeah, we support a lot of our clients with, some of them create their own content, but most of them we support them because, again, that was the first question. I'm very, very busy.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right, last question in the speed round. Which platform would you recommend is the best to use in establishing your authority as one who should be considered as a qualified director? I think there's a regional aspect to this as well, but
Yeah, for sure. Well, the platform that works that Google really likes is Medium. So Medium is a great platform. Of course, if you can be part of the Forbes Council or if you can things like that, of course, that's valuable as well. I don't think the platform is that important. Although I would say if you're looking for boards, don't bother with TikTok and Instagram and let's say those kinds of social media, but really focus on platforms like Medium, where it's a higher level network, but it's mostly the content and the quality of the content. I think that's the most important, more important than the platform.
great. Anouk, we are exactly on time at our 45-minute mark. I thank you so much. As always, great information. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today also.
Thank you too. Have a great day.
Bye now.